Welcome to another wonderful day on the Queen Amina Show. It's always a pleasure to come to you live from the comfort of our home. Today, we are going to have a super exciting day. We're going to be discussing about the one thing that have kept people bound in many areas of their lives. Money, money, money. We're going to be talking about money. And our guest today is Mr. Chazz Okparanta, the CEO of Chazz Insurance, all the way from Whitby, Ontario, right here in Canada. Before we go into that, I have this video. I will not play it anymore because each time I look at it, it really bothers me. And I would say something, just one thing before I bring the guest on. Love is something that we need to really begin to really focus, not just preaching on it, focus and do more of it, not just talking about it. I'll read something out to you that I came across yesterday. The 28th president of United States, Woodrow Wilson, he said something very profound. Quote, he said, the air of a leader must ring with the voices of the people. The ear of a leader must ring with the voices of the people. End of quote. What does he mean by that? You are a leader out there and you see something wrong and the people are crying out for justice and help, and you won't do nothing about it, and you keep quiet like nothing happens, and you just sit down there, just watch people, crying for their lives, and you did nothing about it. I am just begging out to the leaders out there to rise up and begin to challenge this brutality and this mess that is going on. We can fix it. It's not that it's not fixable. We can fix it if we want to fix it. So this is not the topic for today, but I just want to, put my voice out there that we are not accepting what is going on. It doesn't matter if it's black or white or blue or green that was killed. Let justice be served for Floyd. That's all I have to say for this. Having said that, let us go into the topic for today. And I know with the help of God and the help of many people out there, justice will be served. So let me bring up our guest today to join us live in the studio. Hello. Welcome to the Queen Amina Show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And I just want to quickly say you are black and you are bold and you are beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I respond back in the same manner. You're black, you're bold, you're beautiful. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much for bringing.
I'm grateful. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about money. Money is very important. We know that, but it should never be the drive of anything we do. Before we go into that discussion, we'd like you to introduce yourself to our guest, please.
Sure. My name's Chazz Okparanta. I own Chazz Insurance Inc. I'm on an advisory role as well as financial. I have some financial interest in certain other businesses in e-commerce, retail, etc., and realty. I've been in Whitby. Well, my office has been in Whitby since 2000. Well, it's been here for 30 years, but I've been at the helm since 2014, 2015, end of 2014. My primary business is obviously insurance and investments. We've done well with that, and that's really my background for the most part. When Amina asked me to come along and do an interview, I hope us to sort of be able to answer any questions you might have that pertain to that aspect of business, but certainly we can go broader. I will let you guys take the lead. I'll let the Queen Amina take the lead, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone would have.
Thank you so much for that brief introduction. How long have you been in the financial industry in total?
Well, I mean, as far as being in finance or money management, it's been all of my career. I mean, I worked in television many years ago, but I didn't work on the front lines. I worked as a line producer, a production manager. So it's very much financial and budgetary management sort of thing. In terms of insurance, that's something that I started doing when I immigrated to Canada. So my family is from literally everywhere, but most recently I went to university in the United States. I did both. All of my degrees were done in the U.S. in Philadelphia, Temple University, and then an additional degrees were done in at Thomas Edison. Long stories, without veering off topic. But anyway, I've spent a lot of time in the U.S. And I happened to meet my wife while I was living in Los Angeles. She was on a stopover from Australia, and that's how we met. She's Canadian, so that was sort of the story, and that's what got me to Canada. So my business in Canada only, I would say my experience in insurance started in 2014. Um, Now I have far more of a management role in any business that I have any sort of interest in than a very hands-on role any longer. I mean, there was a time when I would say that I had far more of a hands-on role in everything. But I have people that work for me, and I think that it's important if you're looking at growth in anything, whatever it is, understanding the managerial side of it is really probably the thing that will benefit you the most. You can always find someone to answer the phones, and do menial tasks. But growing your business is something that you can't, you're not always going to be able to get someone else to do for you, right? Making the right contacts, networking in the proper way, those things don't seem like they're that important. But I see a lot of people who spend a lot of time. I had this argument, not an argument, but I had this conversation with a friend the other day, and he's a very successful person in his business, his industry, but he has this apprehension to hire people because, let's say he's saving $50,000 by not hiring someone else and giving himself $50,000. But the reality is, when you want to think from a money-making mindset, from a growth mindset, you have to think about, how do I go from, if I'm making 150 and I can hire someone, give them 50, and in 2 years I'm making 350, right? That's how you have to think. And that's the way I thought when it came to business. I'm not interested necessarily in just capturing all the money personally that I have. I'm interested in sharing it as much as I am. These people build your network, they build your army, right?
Mhm.
I like to say sometimes, not a literal army, but everyone that you hire is going to be part of that army, and ultimately, if you're willing to sacrifice some for them, ultimately you're going to have a lot more. So we've grown quite a lot. I mean, we've have, I don't know what the exact number is right now, but it's in the thousands for how many clients we have. We have clients in Alberta, we have clients in Ontario. So we've been growing quite a bit, like millions and millions, every year in growth. So, I think ultimately, without focusing too much on whether I'm the greatest insurance person on the planet, there are lots of people who are great at insurance. But, maybe we can focus on the two sides of having an insurance business. The one is certainly having some knowledge of it, which I do. I probably have a lot more than most. And then if we're talking money, which you and I have had this conversation quite a few times, so they might feel like outsiders. But if we're talking about money, then we have to sort of teach everyone to elevate themselves out of just the concept of, I got my insurance license, now I'm selling insurance to everyone that calls me. My phone's going off every minute. To, okay, I've sold insurance. I've practiced this for 2 years. How do I go from an individual contributor to becoming a management, like to becoming a leader, and that's really the process that we can discuss, and I can shed some light on. I can certainly answer on insurance questions, but I think there's probably a better time for that.
Absolutely. No, my next question actually was going to be, why insurance? Why do we need insurance in everything in life? And then we're going to go into wealth build and money and all of that. But first, even when you're building wealth, you still need to protect that wealth
Sure.
that you are building, which
Sure.
now become a form of insuring what
Sure.
the wealth that you're building. So let's start by why insurance. Why is it important to have insurance in everything and anything you're doing?
Sure. I mean, that answer is multifaceted, because if we're speaking about life insurance specifically, and it's a bit different. It's a different answer, not too different, but it's kind of different. If we're talking about auto insurance, home insurance, I mean, some people in a position to self-insure, right? I mean, some of us can say, well, you know what? If this car burns to the ground, I can just buy a new one. I have, $50,000 or whatever your car costs. You can potentially say that. But ultimately, I think that the goal of having insurance is to have some third party put you in a place, or put you in a place that you were before the loss, prior to the loss. We don't know that we're going to have a claim. We don't know that we're going to have a flood. We don't know that our kid's going to take the car and get in an accident. We don't know that, but we also don't know what that cost is going to be. So we're in COVID-19, and general public doesn't have a way of paying for their bills for the next 2 months. Yet that question still is prevailing. Why do I need insurance? Well, that's your answer. You need insurance because you have to protect yourself from the unknown, right? That's what insurance is all about. If you go on vacation, you come back and your home is flooded, and you don't have $150,000 to fix it, that's why you need insurance, right? If you have if your husband makes $100,000 and you make $100,000, and your bills require you to spend close to $100,000 every year, and he dies, well, you need some sort of replacement for that income, at least for a determinable amount of time. Maybe that's a year. So you have to have life insurance that will cover you for expenses for a year. Maybe you don't need that, and maybe it's a different sort of planning. So these are all things where you still have to try to look at some sort of personal plan, or sort of FSP, or financial statement plan or service plan, and talk to an advisor, or and someone that's licensed that can tell you specifics. But ultimately, even wealthy people are smart enough to know that they don't want to lose all of their hard-earned money because they can pay for a car, or because they can pay for a house. If you can pay $100 a month, and if you have $100,000 loss, they will pay for it. You still keep your money, and you keep it for your children, and you're able to pass on intergenerational wealth, right? And that's really the biggest way to look at it, or the most poignant way to look at it.
Awesome. So what do you say to people that say, I am black and black people don't need insurance?
Well, it's an interesting differentiation. I think all people need insurance. Whether you're black or of some other race, ethnicity, whatever it may be, the principles that determine loss are all the same, right? If I have a loss in my home, it's going to be the same impact. Am I able to have different levels of deductibles than maybe someone who makes less than me? Sure. So that's where you make sure you work your policy to fit your needs, right? Some people have $2,500 deductibles on their home insurance because they're willing to take on the first $2,500, and their exchange is that they get to pay less in premiums, right? Other people only want $500 deductibles, but the exchange is they have to pay higher premiums because the company has to take on more of the share of a loss, right? And that's how that funds. Black or white, that is a terrible way to think about it. I mean, I know that it's not you saying that. I know that's some sort of prevailing thought process in some people, but I don't think that it makes a difference really. I have insurance. I'm a believer in insurance. Insurance has come into play. I have thousands of clients who, at some point have come back and said, "Man, thank God that we did that. Thank goodness we made that change." My staff are always reaching out to clients and trying to do reviews, make sure they have coverages. Imagine you have a home, you get insurance from an agent or a broker, whoever you work with, and then 10 years later, you've added a pool, but you never told them. They never did a review. You never called them. You had a pool. You have a pool party. Someone comes over and someone's daughter dies. in the pool or whatever happens. Let's say that you could have had coverage for that, but because you never informed them, because you're trying to hide from them, because you know that it's going to cost more, because now they're insuring you for more risk. So now all of a sudden you're stuck with $1 million of a bill because you did not want to either pay more or you didn't believe in insurance and you just wanted the minimum, So we actually find, and I don't want to put this on race because there's certainly lots of people of other races who think like that. But ultimately, you are not doing yourself a service in the long term, right? You're doing yourself a massive disservice, and you'll find yourself way behind where you thought you were going to be by trying to beat the system.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Guys,
Sure.
I see a lot of people coming on just now. Please help us share the video so that a lot of other people on your platform will be able to benefit from the great information that we are sharing. Our guest today is Mr. Chazz Okparanta. He is the CEO of Chazz Insurance out of Whitby, Ontario, and he is going to be talking to us today about wealth creation. Before we got into the wealth creation, we were talking about insurance, which is super important because if you're going to be building wealth, you need to protect that wealth that you're building, ensuring that wealth in case of anything. Like he was giving us examples of if you go out and you come back, your house is flooded, you have rental properties that is part of your portfolio in building wealth, and then it's flooded, you have no money to fix it. So what wealth are you building? You lose it if you don't have money to fix it. So it is important to have insurance in everything you're doing. And if you're in the Toronto area, actually the whole of Ontario area.
And Alberta.
Oh, you are in Alberta now.
Yes,
awesome.
That's right.
Oh, that's fantastic because I have my friends from Alberta. Sarah is working. So you guys can call in. That is beautiful. You guys can call in from Alberta and Ontario. And one thing I know, not because Chazz is on my show and he hasn't paid me anything to promote him, but he is a gentleman and he can be trusted. In every business you do, before you follow that person, you have to trust the person. He can be trusted. He was one of the award winners on Vigo Award International because of his humane heart. He's just not an insurance agent. He builds people in his community. He has donated constantly every year since we met him to support the vision of Vigo Award without me sending him no email, no soliciting. He just supports us, and he's been supporting many other organizations that I know. Now, this is somebody we should support because if we want him to continue to give us this support, we should be able to help him building his business by patronizing him. So please, guys, if you have a car insurance, life insurance, home insurance, ESP, education fund, which he will go into all of that, possibly if we have that time, please contact him. Let's quickly know how we can contact you before we go on. We would still
sure. Yes. So I mean, all of our contacts, Chazz Insurance Inc. You can just Google that and you'll find all the info. But the office number, there's an 800 number. I don't remember what the 800 number is, but it's 1-866-GO-CHAZZ.
Okay.
Whatever that translates to, that's what it is. And you can call directly as well with the direct number, which is 905-728-8801. Emails are also fine. You can always email me directly if you want. I don't mind knowing what's going on with the agency. And that's Chazz, CHAZZ _ my surname OKPARANTA @ cooperators.ca. Okay. I'm happy to help out.
We're going to be posting all his information right at the end of the video permanently on this particular video. So anytime you're looking to reach out to him, just come on the video and you will get it. All right. So let's move right along. So when you were growing up, was your mom, dad, everybody into business? Was that why you got into business? Because I have a question here from James that says, I don't have anybody to help me. My parents don't know anything about business, but I am interested in building a business. Where do I start from and how?
Well, my mother was in the health field, and my father did own businesses. Or does own businesses. We don't have a relationship, so I haven't had the benefit of benefiting from that in any event. But yeah, I mean, all of my uncles own businesses. Most of them have. One of my uncles was the head of Shell in Nigeria. So there is sort of a business-minded culture for us, right? And so I think that there was benefit in that regard. But ultimately, I think that everything that you do is going to be about what you want to do, right? It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if my parents were, cleaning up at McDonald's or whatever it was. There was always a drive for me, and I always knew I was categorical. I was very precise about what I wanted to do and what I wanted to have, and it wasn't about loving a specific kind of business. It was just business in general, right? I'm not a big believer in conformity. I don't conform to what the norm always say you have to, and that's not tooting my own horn. That's just who I am. So there are lots of people that have a very different perception of me than the one that you've just remitted, and I love it and I appreciate the way you feel. But I'm sure that there are people out there that may think differently of me. But I return the manner in which you communicate with me is the way that I will communicate back with you. So I think that it does help. Obviously, I've got cousins whose parents were very supportive and involved and were business people, and it does help. I don't think that it's necessary. I don't think that you have to. You really have to be dedicated and determined, and you have to figure out what it is that you can do and you care enough about that you're not going to give up. And that's really all it comes down to. And you have to separate people from your sphere of influence that are just not going to be helpful to that end, right? And that's the most important thing. I can tell all the stories I want. My father was very well off, right? But I was, I drove a $500 car in university. I barely had money half of the time. I worked 3 jobs because he wasn't a part of my life. So people see what they want to see, right? People see one aspect of things, and they don't realize that sometimes it's those people who seemingly have the most that actually have the least, right? I got made fun of in college and university many times because I'd be asleep because I worked at night as well. Meanwhile, friends of mine had their parents mortgaging their houses, and my father had way more money than them. So don't get stuck thinking about things in those terms, right? Start small. Think about something that you really want to do, that you're passionate about, and dedicate yourself to it. Dedicate your time to it. It's not very difficult to get a license to be a mortgage broker or a realtor or insurance person. What differentiates the successful people from the unsuccessful people is dedication and being genuine about whether they're working hard or not. I mean, lots of people say, yeah, I'm doing all I can do, and sit with me for a minute and I'll show you how you're not doing all that you can do, right? You're just saying that you're doing all that you can do. So you have to be genuine with yourself, okay? You have to really put some time and dedication. If anything's easy, everyone's doing it, right? So we know it's hard. We know it's not easy. So we have to put in the time and the work. And look, you have to connect yourself with people who are willing to guide you and will give you the good advice. Don't cry when you get advice that's not make a feel good, that's not feel good advice. You have to take it with a grain of salt and say, okay, well, guess what? Have a glass of wine and then wake up the next day and make the change that you need to make. And that's what people have to do more of, right? I don't think it's impossible. I think everyone has the ability to do it. Some people, it's going to be harder for some. That's a fact. But you have to make the choice of whether you want to wallow in pain and suffering and make excuses, or if you want to suffer for a little bit and then drive off with your Range Rover later. It's up to you.
Like I saw your convertible, I couldn't get over the car. Your $500 car paid off now.
Well, no, that car is paid off. But I mean, I'm into classic cars, right? I like to have some older cars. They never age, right? So it doesn't matter how many years go by, it's still always going to have the same pizzazz.
That was a really classic car. Anyway, thank you so much.
Sure.
James, that answers your question. And wow, let's go into money. I love talking
Sure.
about money. So, Mr. Charles, first, before I get into the very first question, how important is money to life today?
Well, I mean, it's very important, right? I mean, money is a perception, right? I mean, I don't, you need money to do things. So whether you think money is super important or you think it's relatively important, when people are very wealthy, their perception is not the same as someone who is maybe not as wealthy, right? Um, I get clients, they know when their bills come out, they know if they're going to have the money or not. And I have clients who have no idea what their bills are. It just comes out every month, right? So it's all a perception, but ultimately to get where those people are, you have to work hard in many cases in the norm, right? So it's very important, I think. I think it's what determines how well your kids are going to eat, how comfortable your relationships are going to be, how much you can help other people outside of your immediate sphere of influence, right? So it's super important, I think, not in those regards.
All right. Money is super important, and all of us on the platform today now want to know how can we make money. There are many different ways that people can make money, but one of the question here says, "What are some of the clear financial objective goals that one can set to start
Okay, so
with?"
Um, one of the things that I hear from clients or my staff will relay to me often is, I don't make enough to save to start saving, so why start? And my only response to that is you got to start. 'Cause there's something that you're doing that you don't need to be doing. So you have to choose what's the most important thing. Many times we complete an analysis on clients, and we find that they're spending sometimes $500 to $1,000 on takeout and coffee and whatever else they're doing, but yet they don't have any money to put away and save. If you do the math of $500 a month, and save that for the next 10 years, and that's excluding any sort of interest that you'd be or any sort of returns that you would get if it was saying some sort of TFSA or worthwhile RSP, which we'll get into again, but that's a separate thing. But I mean, a lot of us have the means to save, and that's the first step, right? If you saved $500 a month, even $100 a month, and you did it for 5 years, you can probably get two partners and open a small little whatever shop you wanted, right? Or you can decide that, well, these are the 500 reasons why I shouldn't do that. And then you'll choose that because it's easier, right? And that's what human nature is. We say to clients, like right now, people are like, oh, well, the market's bad. I don't want to invest. That's up to you. But all the wealthy people invest right now because everything is dipped, right? Everything you're buying at a lower cost. You're buying units of your investments at a much, much lower cost, right? So this is the time to invest. Now, that said, don't take money that you should be using to feed your children or pay your bills to invest just because I said you should be investing now. Everything has to be taken with a grain of salt and with some sort of intelligence. And if you have and truly, really and truly have the means and the resources to invest now, you should. Because when things get to normal, and I promise you, they will, the market will be fine. Things like this have happened throughout history. The market will be fine. It will go back to normal. And all the people who have invested now are going to look back and say, holy crap. There's so many aspects to investing. Some people use real estate. Again, some people will use a TFSA, which for me personally, that's where I would tell people to start, is a tax-free savings account. Because it's not locked in there. You can access it if you need something, if you need help. So I always tell clients, max out your TFSA, then you can look at non-registers and RSPs, right? RSPs are great investment vehicles. They're really good if you're wanting to certify that you're going to have something for retirement, because they're penalties, right? You're not really being incentivized to take them out earlier. Right? So they're really good if you want to make sure that you have something in the future, because there are only a few ways that you can take money out of the RSP without getting severely penalized.
Mm-hmm.
The FSA allows you to take money out without the same restrictions, so that's a good place to start for people who may not be as financially secure. An RSP is great if you know this is disposable income. You don't even care about it. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and need it to turn your lights back on or something like that. Then sure, it's great. But that's one place to start. And I tell clients, you have to practice just putting your money in and not thinking about it. Don't look at it every day. That is any advisor who is selling you products when it comes to investments and they're telling you, well, look how high this is today, and then you have to be worried about that. Because at the end of the day, you can read any good investment book. Unless you're in the market and you're investing millions and millions of dollars at a time, and you're looking at returns that are equal to that amount of investment in a short term, then fine, you can do that. But if not, you need to be using dollar cost average. You need to be putting in, say, $50 a month, $100 a month, and turning a blind eye to it and let it happen automatically. And 20 years from now, you'll be surprised, right? Or 10 years from now. And anytime you have extra, you put that extra in, right? But don't sit there thinking that there are all these schemes or these companies that will tell you, look how much I made today. I made $3,000. Or I put in $300 and now I have $317 in 10 minutes. Or like, what is $317? What's $10,000 really at the end of the day, right? If you want to think big, right? You're not looking at a thing where you're constantly doing some sort of crazy amount of work just so that you can get some little bits of money. You're doing something that's part of a bigger plan, right? That plan includes life insurance. It may include critical illness insurance. And then, of course, investments, RESPs, things for your children, right? There's so much that I think that we all, we have as a community need to keep educating ourselves more on, right? Just having life insurance, for example, is not enough. Just having the investment alone is not enough, but it has to be, it has to match what your ability is, right? If you can put in $100, then put in. If you can put in 500, then put in, and you will get the same returns based on how much you're putting in. But don't decide not to put anything in if you can put something in, because you're only doing yourself a disservice, right? The market's going to be fine. Lots of rich people are going to be fine. Lots of middle-class people are going to probably be fine, right? So if you're concerned about this, then it's valid and you need to do something about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. You quickly answered, while you were talking, you answered the next question that I had in mind, which is how long should people be investing? And you said long term.
Long term.
Put it in there and turn the blind eye to it. That's the only way you're going to grow money. A lot of people today, they put in money and the next thing they want to think about it, the market is dropping. So, whoa, I want to pull out my money.
No.
Then you're not making money. Whether the market drops or is not dropping, let it there for long term.
If right now, if an advisor advises you to pull money out from some investment or some product that has not consistently been losing money long before COVID, then they're not doing you a service. I don't ask clients to move their money to me, not unless I see the last 5 to 10 years has been dips and dips and dips. Then maybe that's just a bad investment, right? But if it's been fine and moving up averagely 5%, 6%, and only because of COVID or Trump or whatever, it's now all of a sudden dipping, then they need to leave it there, because then they're going to lose that money and they'll never be able to recoup it. So you're better off saying, hey, look, here's what we need to be looking at. And then once this equalizes, then maybe we should look at moving your money, right? If it's been losing money for the last 6 years, then it doesn't matter. Just move it out, because you're not in a good investment. It shouldn't have been losing money for the last 6 years, right?
I think too, it has to do with the mindset. Our minds are conditioned to experience and become aware of the dialect that is being put together inside the mind. So what would you say to the people out there that their mind is only conditioned to negativity? I can't, it's not working, just thoughts of failures. What is your advice for them?
Well, I mean, you have to train yourself, right? You have to be stronger. You have to find some way to condition yourself to think differently, right? I mean, I don't think there are very many successful people who haven't had to retrain their minds over and over and over again, right? It's very, very easy to accept failure. It's very, very easy to accept bad advice. You know, if I've had this situation many a time where a client will come to me and say, well, this person from Primerica, I won't name names. I'll take that back. This person from some company is telling me only buy term and invest the rest, right? This is one of my biggest pet peeves because it's blanket advice to everyone. It doesn't mean that it's bad advice, but it means it's improper, and it's against your fiduciary duty as an advisor to tell someone one type of advice and act like it's a blanket advice that works for every single person. Because the problem there is that you'll see is, and I run into this all the time, because clients come to me 20 years later, they've invested into this term policy. They never invested the rest. Things came up in their lives. So now it's the end of the term. They either, have to cancel that policy or pay $1,200 a month. Had they balanced that out with a different type of policy or some sort of forced savings or whatever it may be, they might have found themselves in a better place. So it's really about individually us having to step outside of what we've been taught or what's the prevailing thought process, because we're happy to invest the rest and buy term because it's $20 a month. Doesn't mean it's good advice, but we love it because it's what we want to hear, right? If I say to you, you know what, because of the amount of money you and your husband make, you probably should be having a whole life policy and this and that and this and that, and it's going to cost you $200. But some other guy comes over to you and says, I'm with this company, and you know what? I'll do one for you for $25 a month. Don't even listen to that guy. In general, people are going to go, you know what? I like him because he's telling me $25 a month. That's the mindset, right? And we have to work ourselves out of that and start thinking long-term. Insurance is an IOU. Like wealth is an IOU, right? You don't get an immediate return. It's not like going to one of my stores and buying something, right? You have to basically trust the person you're working with and trust the system. And when you're retired and sitting there and having a margarita on the beach, right? But until then, you have to trust the system, right? And that's how we have to change our minds and start seeing it as more of a long-term investment and a sacrifice. Right?
So a lot of educating yourself.
Education is key.
Investment.
Is key, but an open mind is probably even more important, right?
Well, thank you so much for that. Now I want to take us into the building wealth. Some people said, oh, I can only build wealth through just opening one business where I can sit there and people would be coming to buy and I sell and I'm good with that. What is your advice? Because I know you have a multiple income stream going on. Could you tell us a little bit about?
Sure. So, I mean, it's the same. I mean, I think that one of the things you have to keep in mind is that the world is changing, and even more so now with the pandemic and all of that. So I think we're definitely seeing more of a shift, even in the finance industry, to a heavily digital sort of way of doing business or process. So I think that the mindset of I have to have a physical location or a brick and mortar is not really that important to have. What's more important to have is to really look at how do my service offerings function from a customer service perspective or a customer insight perspective. Am I running businesses where people can actually come back and say, you know what, I had a great experience. I mean, they didn't tell me what I wanted to hear, but I had a great experience dealing with this person, right? My prices aren't always the cheapest, right? But I refuse to sell crappy insurance. So you either take good insurance from me or you go to someone that will sell you crappy insurance. 2 years later, you guys can get in a fight about how he's not covering you for something that he should have been covering you for. And then you'll come back to me. It's all a cycle, right? With e-commerce today, like everything. I mean, there are insurance companies now in the States where all digital, right? You have a claim, someone steals your bike, you take a picture and upload it, and you have your money in your bank account a few hours later or a few minutes later. So I think that people need to broaden their horizons to start thinking less about, I'm a real businessman because I have a set location and an address and all these things. I mean, I have businesses, I have interest in businesses that have set locations, and I have interest in businesses that don't have set locations. And you know, some of the ones with no set locations make more than the ones with actual set locations. And you know, I think another thing that people have to think about, and that's why I don't want to go into too much detail about all of the businesses, but I have partners too, right? So you have to be willing. There are times when if you trust people and you guys can, you know, you can work together. Sometimes it's good to work with people because you know that they have certain things that they can do that you cannot do, right? I'm not good at everything, right? So how do I have everything? I can only find people who are good at some things and I'm good at other things. And then we get together and we find a way to give people everything, right? And then if you're the face, then you look like you're good at everything, right? But that's one of the things. I mean, you can buy property now. I'm not saying to do that right now, you know, but you can if you want to. But you know, if your situation allows, you can buy property with partners and rent them out, right? I mean, there are lots of things that can be done. You can start an e-commerce business through Shopify, as long as you can source out the right products and you can verify that those suppliers can bring you the products to your clients or to your customers in a timely fashion and can offer the proper customer service that's required. I mean, the biggest thing I hear when people say, oh, I don't want to start this because this person's already doing it or this company's already doing it. Doesn't matter. You know, you have to build your own army. You have to build your own niche. You have to build your own people. And you can if you do it. Lots of people were not part of my insurance company and I never pushed them to be. And they were all part of my community. They were part of organizations that I sponsor every year. But years and years passed. And guess what? Some of them started to come, right? So you have to just understand that it doesn't matter if someone else is selling shoes. Okay? It doesn't matter if someone else is selling jewelry. Never mind them. You start selling your own shoes and you figure out what it is about your shoes that you like. And it doesn't have to be anything. It could just be the same shoes, but you're better at customer service.
That's right.
So that's what people have to start to focus on. And, you know, find something. Sure, it's great to find something that you like, but it's ideal to like doing what you do, right? If you're selling shoes, great. It's great if you like shoes, but it's better if you like money, right? Then you can work the process, right? And I'm not condoning people to just kill people for money. I'm not a believer in that. I try to be as generous as I can with the people that work for me and partners and all of that. But I think that, you know, we have to stop thinking that you have to like the specific thing that you're doing. And it's great to like the thing, but this is separate from going into an office where you hate your boss. You shouldn't do that. But you don't have to like shoes specifically to have a shoe company that distributes shoes, right? You can, and it's great, right? But you could just like e-commerce and be able to source out really good products and then provide that to the public. So we have to start thinking outside of, the 1950s thought process of what things have to be.
Thank you so much. So some of the points that you are saying is to create wealth, one, you have to have the mindset and have an open mind. The other thing you said is educate yourself in the area of what you want to do.
Right.
And one of the things that kept you going, that you gave us an example, is consistency and not minding whether somebody is doing exactly what you're doing. Just keep at it and keep doing what you're doing, and very soon these people will gravitate naturally towards you.
Right.
Now, I have a question here from Nalia. I hope I'm saying your name correctly if you're watching. Nalia said, how can I maximize my earnings to allow me to begin to save monthly?
Right. So, I mean, just off the bat, if you're not someone who is good at using Excel and all those sort of spreadsheet programs, then maybe download an app. I know there's one called Mint, and it's through the people that make QuickBooks as well, Intuit. So it's really good. You can actually put in all your bills, all your steady bills that come out every month, and you can give yourself a budget for say it's called MINT.
Oh, Mint. Okay.
And you can set a budget and say, okay, this is how much I'm going to spend on entertainment or TV or this and that. And, you can set it to give you an alert when you're going over or you're close to going over. There are other ones out there. Just do the research and see what works the best. But I would say try to see what you're spending money on. That's the first step. There's no way to advise someone. I don't know what they earn. I don't know what their bills are. So it's impossible in this environment to give a specific advice. But if they can focus on going a month or two and seeing, okay, what is the trend? Like, what have I spent money on this month? You'll be shocked because you might see that you spent money on some stuff that you don't really need to be spending money on or care about spending money on, right? And then you can just, from there, you can say, okay, maybe I'm spending $200 on takeout. I don't know if that's what you're spending, but let's just say that's the number. Then you might be able to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to reduce this to $100 for takeout, and then I'm going to go and put that money into a TFSA, the extra $100, right? So that's just a very simple thing that someone can do if they, without knowing what their specifics of their situation is. We generally spend money and then we don't think about it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You get out of the house and you stop to do this and you stop to do that and you ching, 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 and no one thinks about that, right? So I think once you become mindful of what is happening and you start actively looking at it and making, being honest about it and making the changes that are required, you'll probably find that you have a lot more money than you think. And that's probably the first step. So set a budget and go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sure. So take one other question. Oh, wow. Time is fast spent. Interesting. We'll take one more question before you will tell us again how people can get to you. And that question is, how could I start a business? How can I start a business without any money?
Yeah, so I mean, with zero money, I don't know if that's a possibility. You usually have to invest something. I mean, imagine if we could just all start businesses for nothing, right? I get the idea and I understand. I think the more correct question that she's trying to ask is, I don't want to spend a lot, or I don't have a lot, or I don't know. I think that's the more direct question that they're trying to send out. But look, let's say you wanted to just start a blog, you still have to pay for a host, right?
That's right.
Assuming you want to present yourself in a certain way, you can always get these free websites, but the problem that you have to understand is with any business, the perception is going to be a very big part of what is going to help you either succeed or fail, right? When you go to buy something from a website and it looks like a crappy website, will you buy it from there, or are you going to go to the guy that probably is just chilling in his basement having a beer, but his website was, done professionally, so you just feel like, hey, that's a real business, right? So you will buy from that guy. Why? Because it feels there is a psychological feeling this is real, right? This is a legitimate business, right? Conditioning is part of human nature. It's the way we've always been, and in business we have to understand this. When I started Chazz Insurance, I never used my picture. Okay. I never used anything about myself. And it wasn't because I thought people hated me, but I understand psychology. And it doesn't only apply to people, Caucasians. It applies to people of color as well. Lots of people will have biases under, unconscious biases that they don't know about. Yeah. Right. So with business, there's a lot of things you have to understand and actually enjoy. I enjoy psychology. I enjoy understanding how people's minds work, right? So you have to think to yourself, if I'm going to buy something from somewhere, is this the type of website that I'm going to go to? And if your website is the kind that you're not going to buy something from, then you probably want to save some money and then to go and get a website that you would buy something from, right? And that's the way you have to think about it. Well, getting hosting plans to have a website up, sometimes it's $80 a month, $100 a month. Sometimes it's $20 a month, and they're always, discount codes and all of those types of things. Do a little research, and I don't mind people messaging me on Facebook or whatever. I'm always happy to answer questions if I have the time, but you certainly don't feel like I'm obligated to answer your questions in any sort of time frame, right? But I'm always happy to guide anyone. and answer when I can. But always keep in mind that I also have other obligations, including 4 children that I have to that I have to manage as well. Right?
No, I know. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Quick before I see some new people coming up, thank you guys so much for watching the Queen Amina show today. Oh, Tarek, I am so sorry. I'm just seeing that Tarek said, "I am so sad you did not reply my message." Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
I'm here still. There's no problem. What's the question?
Sorry, Tarek. What is your question? I didn't see it. You see, sometimes I'm hosting a watch party, and there are lots of people on that watch party there. And when on the watch party, I don't.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of work. Just for the 1 hour broadcast, it's actually a lot of work behind. But I'm having fun, just like you said earlier. Enjoy what you're doing, and just keep at it. And that's all I'm doing. So sorry about that, Tarek. Please repost your question and we'll pick it up. Before I go to that question, can you please just quickly recap for us, for those that are just coming, steps that people can actually take to get themselves financially free? One of the things that you shared that was so profound, you said, start investing monthly and turn a blind eye to it. That can quickly grow into massive wealth for you if left long term. What other steps can people take? I know you spoke quite a lot about it.
I mean, that's certainly part of it. I would say the first step is really looking at what your finances are. All right. In our business, we call it like a financial service review. Right. So you want to sit and look and say, okay, what have I been spending money on? Right. And then you have to cancel out the things that you shouldn't be spending money on, or decrease the things that you're overspending on. Right. And then you can look, and to be clear, you don't have to save with me or even any advisor. You can save with your bank. You just won't have the same returns. Right. But at least it's money that's being put away for a rainy day. Right. You should always have some way of protecting yourself in a rainy day fund. The reality is that, lots of people that say make $30,000 or $40,000 a year, they think that someone who makes $200,000 a year has a big rainy day fund. The reality is that it's perception, right? Money is a perception. Those people making $200,000 have $200,000 a year people responsibilities and liabilities. So sometimes you find those same people in the exact same money problems as people who only make $40,000 a year. So the advice is for both sides. You first have to see what you're spending money on, right? I don't need a $20 million house, right? But maybe you think you need that when you're making a certain amount of money, right? And then all of a sudden that changes, and then you have to reevaluate and say, well, do I need to have so and so? Don't go selling your house. That's not what I'm saying. But you certainly can look at your monthly expenses. Once you've narrowed down the specific bills, mortgage, rent, whatever it may be, cars, insurance, then you can say, okay, I'm now spending an extra $500 or $300 on, coffee and just, the Chinese food next door, right? So then maybe you say to yourself, I'm guilty of it as well. Like sometimes it's easier to just order food, so you just have to say to yourself, okay, is this worth me doing that? What's more important? If you're in a situation where that doesn't matter, you can still take $100 and invest, then keep living the way you're doing, and then just add an investment program to your overall financial plan. If it's not, then you have to evaluate and say, what's here that I can remove, right? Or I can lower, I can amend, and then go from there. And then there's steps, and then next year reevaluate. You might find that you have a few $1,000s just sitting there that you can do whatever you want with. And then you don't have to have a free business. You can take that money and go start a business that isn't free to start. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So before we go, just my last question to you.
Sure.
Why do you think, having known all of this, and a lot of people are interested in making money and making their life better, why is it that too many people, I think statistics says 1% of the 1% are the ones controlling the finances, while 90% of people live in either poverty or why do you think that is still the statistic for many, many years and continue to be?
Well, that's a highly almost overlapping political question. You know, when you talk about the 1%, it's much more than just having the drive and all of those things, right? The people in the 1%, it's not necessarily about drive. There's a lot more to it. You know, there's a lot of having the right birth and things like that. So I don't really focus necessarily on the 1%, but I would say in general, people who do have a better than middle class life that have worked hard for it, it's because they work hard and genuinely tried to make a success of themselves. There are always going to be challenges for everyone. Whatever the challenges are, there's always going to be something for everyone. So I think that when you look at these things and when you want to advise a client, it's more realistic to look not at the 1%, but to look at, you know, the 50% that are maybe in between the middle class and the closer to the upper class. And a lot of those people, in addition to education and some of the benefits, the privileges that they might have had, there's still some hard work somewhere to some degree. What people have to do is, it's okay to post in here and tell me that you work hard and you've done this and you've done that, but you know, you have to be honest with yourself. That's right. Cool. If you've actually been doing what you need to be doing, or if you're just jumping from one place to another saying, how do I build wealth? How do I build wealth? And then the next day you go back to what you've been doing all along, right? That's the question that people have to ask themselves. I'm not about sugarcoating anything. I'm not here to be mean to anyone. But I certainly think that if we are honest to ourselves, a lot of us ask the question over and over again, but we don't take any action. Right? We can give you can give people advice as much as you want, but people have to do it themselves, right? It's an oppressive situation, but a lot of times we put ourselves in a situation that forgetting the, you know, racial and highly political aspects of things. I think that if we were to say to ourselves and change our mindsets and say, I need to get out of this, how do I do this? And then immediately put a plan in place and follow that plan. That's the only way you succeed, right? I almost quit Chazz, and like I almost didn't do it. I did it. I started and it wasn't successful in the beginning. And I had many times when I said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I got a lot of pushback from all kinds of people, you know, a lot of negativity, you know, and there were many times when I sat and thought, I don't really need to suffer like this. I don't need to do this. And, you know, I kept going though, but I drank a scotch, took a shower, went to bed and woke up the next day and started all over again. Right. And that's what everyone has to do. Right.
That has absolutely kept me going too. In this little short thing, there are days I don't even want to wake up. Right. It's that hard. But then I look at the front and I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I can. Right. And I just, you know, go to bed, I leave everything, and then I come back in. It's fresh and I continue. I like the comment from Aja. Aja said mindset is the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aja, for that. And she said, the mindset is the motivational piece to succeed or fail.
Absolutely.
So correct. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So, Chazz, what are some of your final words for us, for our audience, before we let you go? And again, just how they can get to you.
Yeah, I'm fairly available on social media. So feel free to send me a friend request. I will never turn it down unless it's like a naked person or something on there. You can always reach out to me. I will be happy to give you my mobile even. You can text me with questions, you know, as long as you give me time to respond, because I can get overwhelmed certain times. But, you know, just feel free to reach out on Facebook Messenger. I'm on LinkedIn. Just you can search me with my name. My agency is Chazz Insurance Inc. You can reach me there, and there's a slew of other things that I can try to help guide you with, and I'll be happy to do it. So don't feel like a stranger.
Thank you so much for your time today with us on the Queen Amina Show. Truly, truly appreciate that. And we would love to have you back again and again and again. And yeah, thank you so very much.
Not a problem. You
You
guys
have
take
a
care.
wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, we'll do you as well. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. And thank you for always supporting the Queen Amina Show. Chazz is one of our sponsors with the Vigo Awards International, always sponsoring the show since 2016. Honest gentleman. So if you are out there in Ontario and Alberta and you're looking for insurance, by all means, contact Chazz Insurance. And he is one of our sponsors on this show also now, by the grace of God. So we thank you for watching. I started by saying a little word about the Floyd killing and the brutality going on. Again, it's something that I try to stay away from controversial issues, especially the ones that I don't have very clear picture of what is going on. But this was very, very clear that somebody amongst us was murdered. So I'm just telling everyone on your platform, say something, because the more voices that comes out against this brutality, it's the only way that we can either stop this from ever happening again or bring justice to people that are being this crazy, doing this crazy thing. Being Black should never become a death sentence, or being any other color for that matter. So please, on your platform, raise your voices, post videos, and talk about this. Let us come together as a family, as brothers and sisters, to stop this. It's not just happening in the United States. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Europe. It's happening in Africa. So this has got to stop. This has got to stop. And together we can stop this. Having said that, again, I want to just say a big thank you from my new friends from Belize. Thank you. I see you, our king from Uganda. Thank you, my friend Susan from London, Carson, Ajar. Thank you guys so much. And all the people on the watch party that I don't see. Sister Gladys, I see you, always very supportive. God bless you. Yeah. Thank you guys also very much. Tomorrow, we have another wonderful, exciting show. Make sure you're connected, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please do a watch party for me on your platform. That has been bringing a lot of followers. And I thank you all so much, the people that are doing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until then, keep watching the Queen Amina Show. I love you.